fair because we're still in the private going back and forth. From the beginning, you know, you're already jumping all the way to a summons to a fair. I ain't going to go there. First thing happens is the guy sends me a letter and says, you owe me this money, pay it. I go, okay, who are you? I want to find out who you are and validate the fact that we have a relationship. And find out if there's actually a deal or a contract, or if there was anything made, or if it's just some crazy son of a gun from Arkansas trying to, like, you know, collect money from some poor guy in Chicago. So anyway, after you get that settled, you go, okay, I guess we really do know each other, and I guess we really do have some kind of a deal. So what's your claim? All right, well, I think you owe me $147.25. Okay, for what? Well, stuff. I don't know, stuff. What stuff? Okay, well, you know what? You know, that's great. But why don't you give me a validation? Why don't you send me, like, an itemized truth bill or a bill of particulars that says this is a deal and this is what happened. Okay. And by the way, why don't you include a copy of the contract, if there is one? All right. So time goes, and you get something which is on the order of, we don't care what you want, you're going to pay us anyway. And you go back and say, okay, well, I believe you're a franchisee of the federal government and the banking system, which means you have to follow certain rules, the rest of TILA and everything else. If it's residential mortgage, the rest of credit card stuff, and that's TILA. And so, you know, you gotta jump through these hoops, you know, that, you know, you might win at the end, but the federal government at least gives me the opportunity to put these barrel hoops up in front of you so I can watch you jump through them before you take my money, so I can at least be entertained for the money I'm about to pay. You know, why have to pay somebody for without entertainment? So you gotta jump through hoops. But if they refuse to jump through those hoops, then you can go, aha, we've caught you, because the federal government said for you to keep in good standing with your franchise, you have to be able to do that as barrel hoop jumps. And Greg asked you to do that, and you didn't, so you're a bad boy. Now, I've got a clause that I can go after him and say, you know, here's your last chance to jump through those barrel hoops. You got to prove all this stuff. And let's say, obviously, if they don't perform, then that becomes an actual justifiable claim to say, I don't have to pay anything. All right? But let's say, just for the hell of it, that he does perform. He's the 1 in 1 million creditor who goes, you know, I totally understand the rules, and I'm not going to be a poop head, so here's all the stuff I got. And you go, holy shit, this guy actually gave it to me. Wow, that's kind of cool. So take a look at it. And then you go, okay, this. Okay, do you have first-hand knowledge that I actually did these charges? Do you actually know that I did all these? Do you have anybody that I witnessed that I would do that? Or is this just stuff that showed up on the record and went unrebutted because I didn't know and you didn't know, but now you decided to collect on this? And, you know, hey, maybe we're dealing with an alien using credit card numbers. Who knows? Or somebody down in Arkansas trying to steal money from us. Who knows? So anyway, you can play all this game and you go back and forth. And in a worst case scenario, if you decide to acquiesce and say, okay, I owe you money, so I'll give you $1 a month. And he'll go, no, that's not acceptable. I'll say, I'll give you $1.50 a month. Oh, that's not acceptable. So, well, that's all I got. And you can say, sue me, takes you to court, you document all that stuff, you go to court, and you tell the judge, look, I, in good faith, offered this guy. Matter of fact, I sent him a check for this and this, and he either cashed it or sent it back to me, and he refuses to deal with the fact that I've got, you know, a hardship situation here, and I was trying to stand in good standing with him, but he's just being a poop. And the judge will throw the book at the guy for, you know, not being honorable and accepting your best effort. And that's usually what happens. Nobody ever, or rarely ever, throws the book at you if you've actually got a history and recorded piece of data that says, a recorded record. I'm being redundant to say a recorded record, but information on the record that that indicates that you are actually operating in good faith to the best of your ability. Because you can't get blood out of the turnip. And if you can prove that in the statutory court, you can actually win. Karl's got a great case for a guy getting a sofa for nothing because the creditor was being a poop head. And so that can happen. You can win in your favor. Or if it's inequity, of course, the judge could come up with some kind of a compromise. You know, say, okay, you know, on alternate months, do this, do that, and the other guy does this and that. And if you're in equity, you just say, okay, thanks a lot, sir. Have a nice day. If you absolutely want to dispute the claim, then you can try to, challenge the contract as to whether or not it's valid. You can challenge the law as to whether or not there's any law that says you have to pay them. You can challenge a bunch of other things. But after that, you start going into more esoteric stuff that some people do. Some people actually challenge whether or not the currency is valid or if everything is already prepaid, using the birth certificate bond, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's from that point, you can branch into 12 other things that people do. So that's typically the scenario that people run into when they get popped on some kind of a credit card debt. And I'll leave it at that. And that's kind of the overview. So, what do you think?
That was Greg. He kind of slammed it there pretty quickly. What me and Greg were talking about earlier. We were just basically saying step by step how you do it in court. And like I said, Greg went through this just like lightning just now. And all we were basically trying to say earlier was that my method is just to say when you're being summoned to appear, you did everything on the private side. All you have to say to the folks is, I just need to see the law before the court. That's all you need to do. But like Greg was trying to say, and I'll try to do it a little Greg was saying, is first you make sure that there's joinder between the parties. First you make sure that you know each other, that somebody's not just moving a claim or a debt in front of you in error. It might be just a mistake, the same spelling of the name, whatever. The next thing you just need to do is then you just say that just bring forth the obligation of the debt. Just show proof of the obligation of the debt. Say, you know what, honestly, I don't remember you. Honestly, I don't remember having any business dealings with you. Or you could say, honestly, I don't remember that number being that exact amount. How, like I said, everybody knows you can look into your local state courts, the rules of the courts, or you guys code of Idaho, your state codes, sections.
Oh, I just remembered, Karl. Here's a real world scenario, my friend Brian. He got a bill from a credit card company that said they wanted $200 and something, and this is a credit card that he canceled in about 1996, and he's not used it since then. It was an early thing that he had, and he hasn't used it. And so some debt collector got a hold of this account and put this stuff together, and because he did have that account at one time and he remembered it, they were counting on him to just go, oh crap, I forgot that, and pay them. And challenged them, told them to go to hell, and they went away.
All right. So that's what I'm saying. And let me let me go back to what I was saying there, Greg. All I'm saying is first you want to make sure that there's no error. Make sure that there's nothing in dispute. Make sure that first you want to make sure you can try to settle on a private side. Just say, well, I have receipts that I paid you off. Maybe it's a computer glitch or a computer error. Maybe somebody who did data entry for your company failed to put this information in. So let me resend the information. I'll verify that it's true and accurate, and I'll show you canceled checks, whatever it is, to try to help you folks. Understand that this matter's been settled. So like I said, the only other thing you can do is, because every state code book has provisions within their code that if you're chartered as a business, you operate as under a license in your state, you have to abide by state codes. You can't just wing this and say this is a private affair, or this is a private matter, or this is a private business. You are now in the public when you're engaging with others, in the public. So all you're doing is, like I said, it's called statute of frauds. So a statute of fraud means that every single agreement that you folks did, and it started back in the 1600s, because actually it was started in 1677. Paper and pen became plentiful and cheap, and they weren't writing on sheepskins anymore. You could use cheap materials to write things on. And the people were starting to get educated by 1677. So any business was demanded of them to have it written in form of paper, parchment, sort of contract. It had to be written out. spelled out. Only do certain, under certain transfers of certain properties or possessions had to be itemized that had to be listed. Like say you went to McDonald's and you went to the drive-in and you ordered $499 worth of ham. By the time you get to the window, if you changed your mind and you didn't want those $499 worth of Happy Meals, you could just say, I changed my mind. Or what Happy Meals? I didn't order any Happy Meals. I ordered a Big Mac to go. And the lady at the window can't call the police on you and say that you failed to, pay for the services because it's he said and she said under a certain dollar amount. But over $500, what the lady at McDonald's is supposed to do in almost every state code is go outside, find out who just placed this order, write some sort of a contract saying, you will pay me $500 for these hamburgers. And that way, if you do not pay the $500, you are now bound, and I will take you to court, and I will definitely win. So that's what the statutes of large means. So when there's a certain dollar amount, it's all he said, she said. And if you're a businessman, like McDonald's, and somebody orders $1,500, $501 worth of Happy Meals, and then the guy pulls up, there's a couple of crazy kids, college kids made this ridiculous one, and they pull in to up to the window, and they don't pay. McDonald's has to eat it if they don't have a contract that's worth $500. If they couldn't prove it. So that's where the statute of large is. So if you folks actually want to learn what the statutes of large actually bind is like a marriage has to be in writing, in your state codes. Any contract that's going to take to perform a service for more than 1 year, or a transfer of land needs to be in writing, or say an executive order of an estate, like you're creating a will or a trust, that has to be in writing, so that there's no he said, she said stuff, or like a sale of something over like a certain amount of money. So there's certain conditions that must be in writing to hold in court when you're dealing with a credit card company, mortgage company, Macy's, McDonald's, a taxi driver, a hotel, anything. Under $500, basically, you get into court through this arguing he said, she said nonsense. Over $500, if the person that's moving a claim against you, like a credit card company, or a hotel, or a taxi driver, or McDonald's, does not have it in writing, they're going to lose, because they are to know that according to the code in which they're chartered and licensed to operate under, if they want to make a claim for anything over $500, it better be in writing and it better be signed. Because I helped somebody get out of a he said, she said nonsense because the person who was making a claim against them wanted $1,500 in compensation. And I told the lady, just said, hey, settle, work on a private side. And I said, the lady, F you, I'm not settling for anything less but $1,500. So all I said to the lady is, okay, hang on a second. I got the Code of Virginia. I'm going to pop it up. You're going to hand it to the judge. And the judge is going to say a simple thing for the man. Do you have this agreement between this and you, you the man, who's a state licensed surveyor, and this woman, you have it before this court. You have the law, contract, the law. You have the law before the court. And the man said, no, this is all verbal. And then the judge just said, case dismissed. And when the court thing was over, I tried to still work with the land surveyor, but he was extremely upset. And all I was trying to tell him was like, look, she'll still work with you on a private side. He was furious. And he didn't want to hear anything. Because I tried to tell him, look, if it's over a certain amount of money, you are licensed to be a land surveyor in the Commonwealth. You have to abide by certain rules. Now, if it's $499, it's basically he said, she said, and the judge probably would have tossed it to you. Because why else would have you been on that woman's land? There must be some sort of an agreement, or you wouldn't have appeared. So there is some sort of a contract, an unwritten contract, an unwritten law, because it's self-evident that there's no reason in the world you just go hop on this lady's property and just start surveying nilly-willy. So this lady's like, yes, he did survey the land, but we agreed on a lesser of price. And she was like, I'm willing to pay you this, but I'm not willing to pay you that. So the judge threw that case out on the poor land surveyor guy. So like I said, that's what I'm trying to explain to you folks, that when certain companies come after you, it's all he said, she said, up to a certain amount. The same thing with the marriage. Just because that woman points a finger across that courtroom and says you're married, according to the state codes, they're going to say, you have it in writing somewhere, ma'am. Because if the man says, I've never seen that woman in my life, that is not my child. I mean, before people were able to do a DNA test to prove those weren't your children, some woman could just walk into a courtroom and say, that man, this is his baby. And I got 59 witnesses behind me to say so that it's true. So it's just got a little dicey for like somebody who's rich or well-to-do who just won a lottery. All of a sudden, somebody's claiming that they're their daddy. So, like I said, that's why certain things, should be and must be put in writing. For everybody's safety. It's not just for being sued, but the person who wants to do the suing. The land surveyor got flat out nothing in for his labor. So he should have put it in writing and had the lady sign it that she's willing to pay $750 or $1,500 or whatever their agreement was. So let me just explain to you statutes at large. Statutes at large is a very important concept when you're dealing with any kind of relationship. I don't care if it's credit card. I'm just trying to make a blank generalization for anything that you folks might run into out there, not just one specific credit card debt or mortgage or title company. I'm just trying to throw a whole blanket thing out there for you folks and try to grasp what's going on here. So like I said, with me and Greg, all we were basically trying to say is make sure that the parties understand that each other have some sort of relationship between the parties. Then you make sure that there's some sort of evidence of proof, and you can rely upon statutes at large. And I'm almost sure you could type it in, or I could actually send it to you folks if you guys email it to me. I could actually send you what statutes of laws means. That I wrote like a dictionary thing, and I could actually broke it down in very plain, simple terms that you folks can understand. It's called Statute of Fraud. So, and it comes from 1677. So, if you guys want to Google it for laughs, it's a really good one to know. Statute Staples is another good one to know, but I'm not doing that right now. That has to do with the IRS, and it's 100% bona fide, and it's true, and it's dead on accurate. But right now, we're just going to do statute of fraud, because these folks want to know how to deal with going into court and out of court. Okay, the next thing that me and Greg were talking about was saying you could have, if a representative of a fictional entity is going to represent the complaint or the claim or the breach of the contract or the debt in open court, you want to make sure that that person has a delegation of authority or a power of attorney to move the claim. Like the man who was talking a little earlier, I don't know if it was Chuck or Dallas, there's the man who was working in that construction company. He was giving us this great solution. I'll pay you 20 cents on the dollar, 10 cents on the dollar, 5 cents on the dollar. Well, okay, before you even start doing that, because that's insane, and I don't want to say that, before you even start doing that, you make sure that that person on a phone call talking to you has the delegation of authority to negotiate that debt. I mean, I'm not sure I could go online and I could find all kinds of people with all kinds of debt to everybody. I could just start making cold calls. And I could start saying, hey, Mr. Idaho, hey, Mr. California, hey, Mr. Nebraska, you owe Bank of America, blah, 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 blah. And I'm here to propose an offer to you for 5 cents on the dollar. We'll wipe that out and we'll send you all kinds of certification and verification and whatever paperwork you want us to sign, and we'll deliver, and we'll send to you that debt is now satisfied. Okay? That's crazy. Because first you need to make sure they have the delegation of authority. And just because they went online and they found, like say I wanted to go online and go to Harvard or Yale and print out a college certificate and say, oh, look, I graduated from a master's degree from Harvard Law School. Just because I copied and pasted and I made nice bond paper doesn't mean I actually have the accreditation to match what says on that piece of paper. So just because this man whips out this beautiful bond paper, delegation of authority, everything is stamped, signed, sealed, all kinds of nice gold fringing, all kinds of silly stuff, red borders and everything else, don't trust that piece of paper for a heartbeat. You send it over to whatever the debt collection agency or the loan department from Bank of America or Capital One, and you say, hey, have you ever heard of this guy? Because he's acting in your name. And he's stealing not only my money, but he's interfering with your right to collect on a debt. So make sure that the delegation of authority doesn't just come from the guy who claims to be the guy legit. He's like, oh yeah, please, you're the legitimate guy? Yeah, please. You know what? Thank you. You know what? I just wake up yesterday. You know what? I know what I'm doing. So make sure you get the delegation of authority or the power of attorney if you're dealing with man on man. Have somebody say, well, you owe my mama money and she's in hospice care, so now you're going to have to work with me. So say, okay, show me the power of attorney. Show me where she signed it. Show me. So first, then make sure you don't forget about the delegation of authority.